Number 79, we are looking at historical topic 8.5, culture after 1945, and our theme is obviously American and regional culture. We have one learning objective, and that is explain how mass culture has been maintained or challenged over time. The key concept I've split up into two. So the first part of the key concept is going to be how it was maintained. The second part is going to be how it was challenged. So for the first part of it, mass culture became increasingly homogenous in the post-war years. That means that culture is pretty much the same. All of the things that are being produced are trying to promote one way of thinking or one type of music or one type of art. And a lot of this has to do with the advent of television. It became more widespread. There was one television set for nearly every three Americans. And the programming included sitcoms and TV shows that promoted a certain ideal lifestyle. It was programs like Leave It to Beaver, in which you had the setting of the suburbs with a white family, a stay-at-home mom, two kids, and the young kids would be out getting into trouble, and they would try to fix everything before their parents got home. The advertising that happened between as commercials between these television shows were starting to reach more and more people. So all of the products that are being advertised are being bought by more people. So everyone is having a shared experience really in the products that they buy and the programming that they are exposed to. On that same note, we have mass production of paperback books and vinyl records. So people are able to read the same books, people are able to listen to the same music. Some music singers like Elvis become really popular in the 1950s. He adapts parts of country and R&B and blues as his main style of music, and he adds some swinging of the hips, which makes all of the girls go wild in the 1950s. Part of the reason why culture was so homogenous is because the Red Scare really encouraged conformity. If you were in any way slightly different or were not following the mold, then you ran the risk of being suspected of maybe being a communist, because the people expected others to act a certain way, to listen to certain music, to watch certain television shows. And over time, we're going to see that there's going to be dissatisfaction with this ideal life that people thought that they should be living. One of the ways in which this was put under the microscope is through John Kenneth Galbraith's book, The Affluent Society, published in 1958, and he sheds light on the ways in which the United States is failing to fix larger problems and to use its economic growth and power to fix the problems that plague a lot of Americans. So the Affluent Society is going to inspire President Kennedy and also President Johnson to promote and push more programs that are going to help Americans who are struggling. All right, so this homogenous culture is going to inspire challenges to the conformity by artists, intellectuals, and rebellious youths. So we have a big variety here. For writers, we have J.D. Salinger writes Catcher in the Rye, in which the main character, Holden Caulfield, is railing against conformity and thinks that anyone that is in this mold of conformed to the homogenous culture is a phony. Joseph Heller's Catch-22 pokes fun at the rigidity of the military, also pokes fun on the absurdity of war. The beat movement of the 1950s is really dominated by Jack Kerouac and the poet Allen Ginsberg. Jack Kerouac writes the book On the Road, and it's really showing that people in the 1950s, they don't want to be tied down to a suburban house with a mortgage and a family. He wants to go out there and be spontaneous and get in a car and drive whenever he feels like it, to go see his friends, to go and drink and do drugs and have a good old time, because he does not want to be tied down to the expectations of what he should be doing, what kind of job he should have. And the hippies in the 1960s are going to be very similar to the beatniks, except they're going to add rock and roll to it. That's going to become a larger part of their counterculture. The writer Ken Kesey, who wrote One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, is a bridge between these two movements. He was writing in the 50s, was friends with a lot of the beat writers, and then kind of transformed into the hippie movement and experiments with acid or LSD and rock and roll music. So that is it for this lecture. Here's the recap. So due to technological changes, American culture became more homogenous. The picturesque Leave It to Beaver suburban life was not the reality for all, but that was what was being portrayed by these television shows. Rebellion or counterculture arises in opposition to the conformity, and finally, beatniks and hippies yielded cultural contributions in their rebellion against conformity. All right, so that was it for this one. I hope you enjoyed the short lecture. Please come back and watch lecture number 80.